Men who crowned kings arrived in Jerusalem, escorted by hundreds of knights. They seek a new monarch. Their question to Herod would cause a massacre. Matthew's gospel records Eastern visitors, but is silent on their names, crowns, or exact number. Who were the true magi who defied King Herod? We'll investigate the original Greek term and Parthian Empire records to reveal this delegation's historical identity. The painted wooden figures in modern nativity scenes show three solitary kings. They travel on camels, wear silk robes and gold crowns. Medieval tradition even named them Balthazar, Melchior, and Gaspar. But the first-century text paints a far more complex scene. No mention of three people, no record of royalty. Matthew's account, chapter 2, uses a specific, politically charged word, magi. The omission of details wasn't an accident. For its first readers, the word sufficed. They knew exactly who crossed the desert borders and why their presence demanded immediate attention from Rome. The original Greek term, magi, preserved in ancient papyri fibers, didn't describe fairy tale sorcerers. The word has deep roots in the ancient East. Centuries before Jesus' birth, Greek historian Herodotus documented this class. They were a tribe and priestly caste of the Medo-Persian Empire, men dedicated to studying stars, mathematics, and the Zoroastrian religion. In the 1st century, the ancient Persian Empire's region was dominated by Parthians. The Parthian Empire was the only superpower rivaling Rome. They controlled territory encompassing modern Iran and Iraq. Within this Eastern Empire's political structure, magi occupied the top. They formed the King's High Council. No military or diplomatic decision advanced without these priests' readings of the heavens. Even more importantly, Parthian magi were kingmakers. They held power to approve or reject a new monarch's coronation within their own empire. When Matthew writes that magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, he describes a high-level diplomatic embassy. They didn't travel alone. A delegation of that magnitude crossing dangerous trade routes demanded protection. Military historians point out Parthian ambassadors traveled escorted by armed cavalry, hundreds of men on horseback raising dust on the desert horizon. It is this foreign delegation that approaches the city gates dominated by Herod. Jerusalem's heavy stone walls cast long shadows over the market, but this caravan's arrival in Judea's capital shatters tradition's peaceful image. What foreign delegation would make Herod and the entire capital tremble? Verse 3 of chapter 2 states the king was disturbed and all Jerusalem with him. Herod was a paranoid monarch, placed in power by the Roman Senate. Judea was an unstable border zone. Just decades earlier, Parthians had invaded Jerusalem, deposing the local leader. Now, the political elite of that same enemy empire entered the city. They brought a question sounding like high treason. They asked, where was the newborn king of the Jews? For Herod, lacking Davidic royal blood, the question directly threatened his throne. But the Greek text reveals another popular tradition discrepancy. The visit didn't happen on the birth night in a stable. Verse 11 describes the Magi entering a house. The Greek word is oikia. There they found a boy. Matthew's term paidion indicates a small child, not brephos, used for newborns. The star guided them to an ordinary residence, possibly months or even 2 years after the birth. Based on this calculation from the Magi's own account, Herod ordered the execution of boys up to 2 years old in Bethlehem. The astronomical investigation from the east collided with Rome's political brutality. The collision's center lay in the wooden chests the travelers carried. Inside that ordinary house, travelers opened chests of gold,
frankincense, and myrrh. Christian theology long recognized these items' symbolism: gold for a king, frankincense for a priest, and myrrh, an embalming resin, pointing to death. But in the first-century diplomatic context, these were classic tributes to sovereign monarchs. The Parthian elite paid official homage to a Jewish child. This raises the account's greatest historical mystery. Why would Persian priests cross the desert to worship another nation's king? The answer rests in documents far older than Matthew's Gospel. 6 centuries before this encounter, the Babylonian, then Persian Empire, deported thousands of Jews east, among them Prophet Daniel. Biblical records show Daniel became chief of the Babylonian wise men, leading the same caste of counselors and astronomers from which the magi descended. In the Eastern diaspora's Jewish community remained vast, influential for centuries, carrying Hebrew scriptures. The Parthian magi accessed Old Testament prophecies. They knew numbers foretold a star rising from Jacob. They studied Daniel's 70 weeks, establishing a mathematical timeline for an anointed leader's emergence. When an unusual astronomical anomaly tore through the night sky, they weren't staring into the void. They read the cosmos through Hebrew prophecy's lenses. The planetary conjunction, or new star, was the trigger, but the knowledge that moved them was planted centuries earlier during Jewish captivity. They knew what they sought, and they knew the king in Jerusalem was not the true heir. The Judean desert sand erased horse tracks when the travelers returned by another path. They weren't 3 solitary kings from a children's tale. They were scholars, diplomats, and kingmakers from a formidable empire. Men who united ancient astronomy's precision with foreign sacred texts' promise. Their journey exposed Herod's fragility and validated a forgotten lineage in a humble house. The Magi's story documents the moment ancient world politics bowed before something Rome's sword couldn't control. The sky had spoken, and the East responded. In our next episode, we'll investigate the angel who wrestled with Jacob, God or creature. The Genesis text describes physical combat in the dust, but the opponent's identity has defied theologians' understanding for millennia. The star they followed vanished, but the tension of that diplomatic encounter still echoes in the lines of the Greek manuscript.